to demand them. At the same time, there is also a greater sense of equality in terms of the individual's right to be heard. Nobody's views or ideas can be dismissed merely because of the person expressing them. So then, the growth of the secular spirit, the presence of a variety of moral options and frames of reference, and an increasing sense of individual autonomy in moral decision-making are ways in which it may be said the society has caught up with the spirit of the modern times from the point of view at which we are looking at it. If, however, what has been happening on the one hand is that we are catching up, then on the other hand, there is also a sign that we are being carried away by winds of a new spirit. This is the spirit of what is now being referred to as the postmodern age. Just as the modern spirit that we have caught up with in the ways to which I have referred called into question certain things that hitherto remained unchallenged and presumably unchallengeable, so now this new spirit of the postmodern age by which we are being carried away is doing the very same thing. The new certainties that were created by the spirit of the modern age and that have now come to characterize our thinking are not now as established as they once seemed. Ways of looking at the world that were considered self-evident and self-explanatory, acceptance of the self-sufficiency of human reason, and belief in the inevitable progress and development of humanity, have all suffered great reverses, and these reverses have made them look less certain than they once appeared in the full flush of the modern spirit. Wars, the threat to the environment that has accompanied technological advances, painful underdevelopment of vast numbers of peoples caused by the development of others, and the stubborn persistence and even intensification in some cases of such human problems as racism, sexism, classism, oppression, and exploitation have served to undermine human confidence. But in my mind, one of the most disturbing features has been the clear loss of moral certainty and an almost overwhelming sense of moral confusion. Diminished moral commitment and purpose seems to be evident on a wide scale, touching every area of life. The signs are present in our society, along with the equally disturbing fact that the serious implications of this situation are not recognized, nor are the serious consequences that are evident. This is considered to be so even when allowances are made for the fact that it is not every indication of perceived negative change in moral attitude and conduct that is necessarily a sign of dramatic deterioration, as is sometimes charged. Time and time again, people say things are bad, morality gone to the dogs, there is rapid moral deterioration. And sometimes they do not take into consideration that wherever there are dramatic changes, there will always be moral dilemmas. They sometimes do not recognize that one of the things we need to come to terms with is that because of the nature of the world in which we live, hitherto hidden moral lapses are now made more public. And so it may not be that there is moral deterioration. It is just simply that people are being more open and less hypocritical in their moral lapses. Sometimes there are new moral problems for which there are no answers to be given by old moral solutions, and it would seem that the society is worse than it really is. But with all of that, it seems to me that our society is in a state of moral crisis. Why is it in this state of moral crisis? It seems to me that morality cut off from any ultimate vision, and where this is done, a moral vacuum tends to develop. Each person is left to a large extent to determine what is right or wrong based on private individual interest, desire, and wish. So morality tends to be more aesthetic than normative. Some of the worst features of free-for-all morality, understood in terms of the exercise of one's freedom to fulfill one's desires, they are upon us in the society now. There is rabid individualism, unmindful of the rights, concerns, and sensibilities of others. There is a very high level of indiscipline in public and general behavior. As far as public commitment on the ordering and management of public affairs are concerned, there seems to be an absence of sufficiently noticeable moral consciousness. There is flagrant materialism that makes the market, with its assumed self-regulatory mechanism, the model for the total society. Money and property have become the ultimate determinants of all meaningful values. There is an ever-widening gap between the fortunes of the people at opposite ends of the society, the rich and the poor. There is constant erosion of what modicum of family stability there has been. There is still basic disregard for the environment. There is an inconsistency coupled with ambivalence at the very heart of our society. An inconsistency coupled with ambivalence that allows for great harm to be done, great injustices to be perpetrated, and corruption to be excused without general moral protest. This takes place because often what is regarded as one person's indiscipline is defined and defended as another person's individual right. This indeed speaks eloquently then to the state of moral confusion and collapse in which we find ourselves. Let me ask then, where then do we go from here with morality seeming to be a lost cause amongst us? Surely, if our society wishes to be authentically human, morality cannot be dismissed willy-nilly, nor can the death of our collective moral consciousness be tolerated at all. If this should happen, then humanity itself would have become a lost cause in our midst. For morality is about human responsibility and accountability in ordering of our lives individually and collectively. There is no aspect or area of life that is independent of morality and moral decision-making despite claims that are made to the contrary. All this means for us that the question of morality, as it relates to our social existence, our understanding of life in community, and the hope we have concerning the shape and the form this life takes, is one of great importance. It remains an essential part of the process of coming to terms. Themes directly on morality and its implications are lacking in our society. But meaningful public discourse and discussions are very important. They are necessary for, one, advancement in moral understanding. Meaningful moral discourse is necessary for the development of maturity in unavoidable social ethical decision making. Meaningful public moral discourse is necessary for informed insights in making moral judgments and offering advice and counsel. And just in passing, I would like to say, if we continue to believe that morality is a problem for personal and individual tastes, and there are no public implications, then we would better stop condemning South Africa for apartheid. Any serious moral development within society that is not served by a mature moral outlook shared by most of the society will be seriously distorted. It will be seriously defective, no matter what technical, statistical evidence you may bring to show success or to impress with the possibility of success. Serious development within society must take into consideration moral development. Public moral discussion, then, is important for public social moral consciousness. At this moment, I believe that this is lacking. I'd like to suggest that we have another telltale sign that indicates the necessity for public morality. It is what I call a general devaluation of moral education. While much is said about the importance of education and the merits of various aspects of education are advanced, particularly education in the sciences, technology, and information systems, moral education is regarded as peripheral, marginal. Presumably, such an education is seen to have no ready market value, and it is hardly seen how such an education fits anyone for practical, technical existence in the modern world. Of course, even the church that might be considered to have vested interest in this is itself losing its place of importance in the secular onrush. It is accused of meddlesomeness when it raises moral questions. The moral education, though, that I am referring to is not education for conformity or domestication. It is not education for uncritical acceptance of dogmas. It is not education for uncritical acceptance of cultural absolutes. It is rather a preparation for participation in decision-making on a wide scale, for the pursuit of moral responsibility, and for meaningful sharing in the creative and critical endeavor of shaping the society. It is education that releases potential for self-realization, which involves ethical commitment. The whole range of our human life is affected. Church, school, home, the media, civic groups and organizations, and other special interest groups all have a vital role to play. Let me begin at home. The church, the formal institution of the dominant religion of our society, has an obligation, through its own proper self-understanding, to engage in moral education. And this will have to be done